solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
All right, I'm Officer Derek Kolb, Derek Kolb.
You a police officer with the City of Milwaukee Police Department?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been an officer?
Since August of 2023.
What district are you assigned to currently?
District 3.
Have you always been assigned to District 3?
Since the start of field training, yes.
What would be the geographical area that encompasses District 3?
It starts from the most northern part of Center Street, goes down to about St. Paul, Canal Street, and then various streets out west to about 106 to about 7th Street.
And you work patrol?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe your general daily duties?
Generally, we'll be patrolling around, taking calls for service, doing traffic stops, anything that dispatchers dispatch to on a daily basis, so any sort of calls that we need on the day.
The calls for service come from a dispatch center from the city, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you working on the morning of April 2nd, 2024?
Yes, sir.
Were you alone or did you have a partner?
I was with a partner that day.
What was your shift?
I was assigned to day shift, which is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Shortly after your shift began on April 2nd, 2024, were you and your partner dispatched to 2928 West Lisbon Avenue in the city and county of Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Yes, I was.
What was the nature of the call that you received?
We initially get a call for service from Milwaukee Fire calling us for a request MPD. Usually that results in us being told that we need to investigate a fire of some sorts.
Did you know what kind of fire this entailed when you were going there?
Yes, initially our CAD notes read that it was a vehicle fire.
Are you familiar with what's at the address of 2928 West Lisbon Avenue?
Yes. When I started there, it was an abandoned building, and it continued to be until it was torn down.
Do you remember about when it was torn down?
It was approximately about 6 to 7 months ago, roughly.
Okay, after April 2nd, 2024.
Yes, sir.
Your partner that day was who?
His name is Miles Kowalik.
Mileskowalik for the record. When you were dispatched to that location and arrived in that location, were you and Officer Kowalik already there, or had the fire department already been there?
Milwaukee Fire Department had already been there and extinguished the fire prior to our arrival.
Did you speak to a member of the fire department?
Yes, I did.
Who?
I do not recall his specific name.
Okay. Was he the captain that was on scene?
Captain Hoos was his name.
Hoos?
Yes.
Thank you. That conversation, I presume you just got basic information about what they encountered when they got there?
Yes.
Do you recall what that information was?
Essentially, we run down if the fire was suspicious or not suspicious, what essentially they first got there, what they observed, and essentially we just get a debrief of the situation before we do our investigation regarding the fire.
And what did they observe?
When they got there, they observed a blue Honda Civic engulfed in flames, which prior to our arrival, they put out before we got there.
Was there anything notable about the trunk that they had noticed when they got there?
When they got there, I do not recall, but when I arrived on scene, the trunk was ajar.
Was there any noticeable damage to any part of the vehicle that did not look to be from a fire?
Not to my knowledge, no.
You had a body camera, correct?
Yes, it was equipped and activated during this investigation.
And you also made contact with an individual who had called 911, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
She, at the time, was a resident of a house on North 29th Street, correct?
Yes, sir, just east of the location of where the vehicle was set on fire.
Do you recall what address?
I do not recall.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 190. What is this?
That is a aerial view of District 3, certain parts of streets being Galena to Lisbon Avenue.
Move 190 in and ask to publish.
Any objection?
No.
It's received and go ahead.
I've got Exhibit 190 on the TV screen now. Officer, at the top of the screen, there's an angled street, is that right?
Correct.
What street is that?
The angled street that runs west to east is called West Lisbon Avenue.
The street that runs north to south on the far left side, that's North 32nd Street.
Yes, sir.
And the map depicts as far east as North 29th Street, almost to North 28th Street. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Is the location where you found, or where you went to find this car on this map?
Yes, it is.
If, Your Honor, would you allow the witness to point out where the car was?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so you're pointing to the building basically at the northeast corner of 30th and Lisbon.
Yes, sir. Just east of 30th.
All right, and that building that's in this map, that is no longer there.
No, it is not.
And was the car on the Lisbon side or the other side?
It would have been north of Lisbon Avenue, just east of 30th.
Behind the building at this corner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if you go down 30th, this street here is what?
That would be Walnut.
This is Walnut Street, and then the one south of that is
West Galena.
West Galena. And then right in between Walnut and Galena is the 31st and Galena Playground?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You can have a seat. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 51. Should come up on the screen momentarily. What are we looking at?
That was the blue Honda Civic that we got dispatched to for the vehicle fire.
I should have asked a better question. This is a body cam, right?
Yes,
Okay, whose body cam?
that would be my personal body camera.
Where I have this Exhibit 51 queued up, you're looking at the Honda Civic, right? And the street that would be beyond that building is what?
That would be West Lisbon Avenue.
So you're essentially facing south.
Yes, sir.
Is this your body cam from when you were there that day?
Yes, sir.
I'd move Exhibit 51 in and ask to publish about 2.5 minutes of it.
No objection.
It's received and go ahead.
Sorry, 3.5. When I start playing this video, there's not going to be audio, correct?
No.
Why is that?
For the first 30 seconds, when we turn on our Axon body cameras, it goes back about approximately 30 seconds to where no audio is recorded during it, just how our Axon equipped cameras are run in our Milwaukee Police Department.
You hit record, but your camera actually picks up 30 seconds prior.
Exactly.
All right, thanks. Paused at 1:10. That first portion of the video, what were you doing?
Essentially looking over the vehicle, just seeing what kind of fire damage is done to the vehicle. And then initially when I looked at the front plane of glass for the front window, that's initially where I first checked vehicles for their VIN number. And then the second time when I went to the inside of the door panel is where I checked for the the VIN number. The first one is destroyed in the vehicle fire, so I got the VIN number off of the door.
The purpose of getting that information is what?
Typically, and sometimes with the Milwaukee Police Department, some vehicles have license plates that do not match the vehicle that it has on it. So I always double check and write down the VIN number of the vehicle and the license plate as well, just to make sure that they match if I run the license plate or if I run the VIN.
You did that in this instance?
Yes, sir.
And then did you run that information to try to figure out who the vehicle belonged to?
I did.
And who did the vehicle belong to?
We run it through a certification called E-Time, which is a Department of Transportation check. And when I ran the license plate and the VIN of this motor vehicle, it listed to Sade Robinson.
Did the VIN and the license plate match?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Playing at 110. Paused at 152. The last few seconds here, you seem to be checking the engine compartment fare.
Yes.
And on the left side of the screen where my mouse is circling here would be the front passenger rear view mirror, correct?
Yes.
And the condition of it right now at this point is what?
It's damaged.
Hanging down,
Yes.
playing at 152. Paused at 225. The front hood of the car, there's a cut straight across, correct?
Yes.
The hood is cut open.
Yes.
Okay. Is that something the fire department does?
Yes.
Playing at 225.
Super weird because that engine still looks like it's in pristine condition. So. Huh? It didn't even look like, I mean that in the sense of like the fire didn't even touch the engine or any part of the front of the vehicle.
Oh, it's only interior.
Paused at 318. At this point in the video, you're looking into the trunk.
Yes.
This item that I'm pointing out with my mouse here looks like what?
Like a bag of some sorts?
This black item here?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the first time either of you had looked into the trunk, fair?
Initially, I was the only officer between us two that had looked over the vehicle, looked and inspected it, and just made sure that everything was inside the vehicle or if any personal identifiers were in it.
Understood. Playing at 318. Paused it at 332. That last clip of you standing at the driver's side of the vehicle, how would you describe the interior of the vehicle?
Completely destroyed, essentially set on fire, complete fire damage of the interior of the vehicle.
The frame that I have on the screen right now from your body cam, it looks like there's a lot of trash. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know this location, is that abnormal for behind this building?
Not at all.
Okay, is this building, as it was abandoned at the time, was it kind of a dumping ground?
It could be used as a dumping ground, yes.
And where your squad is parked here, that's the alley, that's not a street, right?
That is an alleyway.
This street over here to the left, that would be North 30th Street then.
Yes, it would be.
So to get here, you pulled into this alleyway right off of North 30th.
Yes.
The 911 caller, did you make contact with that person?
I did.
Did they indicate whether,
Objection, here.
That was
I was
somewhat of a,
gonna make a hearsay objection, but he stopped his question.
okay.
you did talk to the 911 caller?
I did.
Did you canvass the neighborhood?
I did.
And did you look for video cameras from houses or anywhere that might depict the area behind that abandoned building?
Anywhere in the immediate area that could have potentially caught this vehicle driving into the alleyway or behind the abandoned house.
That's what you were looking for.
Yep.
Were you able to find anybody when you were on scene here from those houses who had seen what happened?
My immediate canvas, not a single individual saw what happened, and nor did I find any camera footage around that immediate area north of it.
Okay, so you say north of it, you're looking, you mean north of Lisbon, fair?
Yes.
And are you aware of any camera footage that captures right behind that abandoned building at the time?
Not at that moment, no.
After you arrived, did you have other members of your department come out to tow the vehicle from that location?
I do not recall if we had another squad or if it was us that waited for the tow to arrive on scene.
So there was a tow that arrived on scene, fair?
Eventually, yes, that vehicle was towed from that location.
Where do you, what's the process for that? Where does it get towed to?
We call the city tow lot, and then essentially we wait for a tow to arrive. We get a tow number that's associated with the vehicle, and then if it's a safekeeping tow, it'll be kept at the city tow lot in a specific lot separate from evidence tows.
Did you at some point become aware on April 2nd of a leg that was found at Warnemont Park?
Yes.
Did you become aware that day or at a subsequent time?
Subsequent time.
Okay. And you're aware that that leg was found on the evening of April 2nd?
I do not recall what time that was recovered.
But this time, the time you went out to this burning car, I think it's on your body cam up here at the upper right, we're at 8:22 a.m., is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Cross?
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, officer. So you testified that you were dispatched to this 2928 West Lisbon Avenue for a vehicle fire, correct?
Yes.
And had you ever been dispatched to vehicle fires in that area before?
No.
Okay, so, but this area that you described, you said that there's a lot of trash around there, correct?
Yes, there is.
And, I mean, I guess we can kind of look at the video here on this frame. It looks like there's some residential homes, correct?
Just north of it, yes.
Are you familiar with this area through your, responding to calls for service?
Yes.
And, I mean, have you responded to calls for service about potential drug dealing?
Objection relevance?
What's the relevance?
I'm just trying to set the scene of where this all occurred, the part of the city. I mean, the state on direct examination was talking about how it's a high crime area.
I don't recall that happening.
Or the trash, I suppose. I mean, if I can just move on.
Okay,
Littering's
please
a
move on.
crime.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Move on.
All right, but when you arrived after the fire had already been extinguished, correct?
Yes.
And you had mentioned that the trunk of the vehicle was ajar, right?
Yes, it was.
And it was in that condition when you arrived.
Can you rephrase that?
The trunk was ajar when you arrived, correct?
Yes.
And I guess we saw on body camera, it shows that you approaching the car, and it looks like you're writing down the VIN number?
That's what I initially did, yes.
Okay. And did you touch the vehicle whatsoever? Did you touch anything in the interior and the trunk?
Nothing in the interior, nothing in the interior of the trunk, and nothing from the exterior. When I opened the trunk, I do not recall if I put my direct hand on it or if I used my sleeve.
Okay. And you indicated that there was minor damage to the exterior of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, I did.
But it didn't appear that there was any fire damage on the exterior of the vehicle. It looks like it was more just interior, correct?
I knew there was interior damage. I do not know the extent of the exterior of it, if it was fire damage or if it was damage done prior to the vehicle being there.
What I meant was the exterior of the vehicle, there wasn't like char marks on the exterior.
I do not recall if there was or not.
It appears that the fire damage is all the interior front seat and into the back seat, correct?
There was fire damage in the interior and the rear and the trunk.
And the trunk, but we could see on the body camera that there was still some belongings that didn't look like they were charred or burned.
No.
And after you are looking at this vehicle, you said you canvassed the area, correct?
I did.
And what did that entail? Did you go to homes around the area?
Any houses around the area that could have potentially caught this incident on a camera or any sort of video footage?
And you weren't able to locate any video footage that captured the fire?
No.
And so you weren't able to identify any suspects that were captured on video, correct?
Nothing on the canvas that I conducted that day.
I have nothing further.
State.
Nothing else.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you.
State.
State calls Detective Alexis Krusek.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
Alexis, Alexis, Krusek, Krusic,
How are you employed?
with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
What's your position there?
Detective,
How long have you been a detective?
over 9 years.
Prior to that, what was your rank?
Patrol deputy,
Are you assigned to any specific position within the Sheriff's Department?
I am a federally deputized task force officer with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and I'm on the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office bomb squad as a bomb technician.
What does it mean to be a TFO with the ATF?
I assist with federal cases ranging between firearms trafficking and arson cases.
And you have federal jurisdictions as well, correct?
Yes,
How long have you been on that assignment?
since March of 2020.
So you were working in that capacity in April of 2024?
Yes,
Did you come into contact with a 2020 blue Honda Civic in April of 2024?
yes, April 5th.
April 5th? In what capacity?
It was originally involved in a fire, now determined to be an arson. It was towed back to the Milwaukee Police Department tow lot, the City of Milwaukee tow lot, pending processing.
Was there a license plate associated with that?
There was.
What was that?
It was Wisconsin Adam Sam Paul 1711, I believe it is.
Would 1171 sound familiar?
1171.
Are you aware of who that vehicle registered to?
It listed to Sade Robinson.
At that point, you were aware that Sade Robinson was deceased, correct?
I believe at that time it was still a missing person.
Okay. Who were you with at the tow lot as it relates to your investigation surrounding this vehicle?
Milwaukee Police Department personnel, I believe it was Detective Amy Stolowski, ATF Certified Fire Investigator Ricky Hankins, and Milwaukee Police Department Bomb Technician Commander Adam Islub,
And what was your purpose in being there?
assisting with the search of the vehicle.
I missed the last name, the bomb tech, Adam,
Islub?
thank you.
And I'm sorry, the crime lab was also present, 2 individuals,
What was the crime lab there for?
to assist with evidence collection.
Such as? Such as
Collecting
what?
DNA swabs, they collected the items out of the vehicle, packaged them, and then they were turned over to me at the end of the day.
And you watched that happen?
Yes,
Did you observe the Honda Civic in its initial state at the tow lot before any searching began?
yes,
And prior to your search of the car, and when I'm saying your search, I mean you and the other personnel that were there that day, did you have any information about whether or not someone else had searched the car on an earlier date?
no,
So you were the first search of this vehicle?
yes.
Okay. Can you describe the vehicle as you initially observed it?
It had heavy fire damage to it in all areas. The trunk was still pretty intact as far as vehicle condition.
Were you able to readily identify anything in the vehicle?
There was a blanket that could be seen on the back seat, as well as a brown and black purse that was on the floor behind the front driver's seat.
That's as to the passenger compartment. Would you say that the passenger compartment was the part that sustained the heaviest fire damage?
Yes.
What about the hood and engine area?
The hood had been cut, most likely by the fire department.
Can you describe the trunk?
The trunk was still in pretty pristine condition. There was a lot of standing water still, though, in the trunk of the vehicle.
Were you able to locate any items that were ultimately collected and placed on inventory from the trunk?
From the trunk, there was a black puffy style jacket. There were light ripped jeans, like light washed ripped jeans, white tennis shoes, and tan underwear.
The underwear, was that contained on or within something?
It was on the outside of the light washed jeans.
The bag or purse that you described, was that also recovered?
It was, but not in the trunk.
Did you find any keys?
No.
Did you find any cell phones?
We found remnants of the phone camera, the steel that's on the back of an iPhone that shows the 3 circles for your camera. We were able to locate that in melted debris via X-ray.
Sorry, can you repeat the last portion of what you said?
It was located in melted debris inside of the vehicle that we were able to locate by using an X-ray system.
Thank you. Did you find any weapons?
No.
Would weapons, in theory, be detected through an X-ray system?
Yes,
Were photographs taken?
they were.
I'm not going to object to the introduction of any of these photos. It's all car photos.
Thank you. I'm showing you what's been marked exhibits 58 through 89. If you could just look through those and let me know what they are.
One at a time.
If you can just collectively look at them, identify them, and then we'll go through them one by one.
These are photos that I took during the vehicle processing.
I'd ask that exhibits 58 through 89.
They are received, and you may publish.
Showing you exhibit 58. What is that?
That is the front of the 2020 Honda Civic.
Okay, and again, this is at the tow lot, correct?
It is.
Exhibit 59.
It's the passenger side view of the Honda Civic.
Can you see fire damage to the exterior of this car?
You can.
Can you describe where?
On the front, or on the top portion of the vehicle doors.
Exhibit number 60, what is that?
The passenger rear corner overall of the Honda Civic.
Exhibit 61.
It's a front driver's side corner overall view of the Honda Civic.
Did it appear to you that there was at least some sort of front end damage to that vehicle?
Yes.
Exhibit 62, what's that?
That is an overall view of the driver's side rear back seat, showing the fleece blanket.
Okay, so the green and blue item here, this is a blanket.
Yes.
What is the yellow material there?
I believe that's part of the seat cushion.
Exhibit number 63.
It's an overall of the trunk view.
And I'm just going to have you step down off the stand and approach that. And if you could show us where, you said there was a jacket that was recovered, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and that was a black.
Puffy winter jacket.
What else can you see in that photo that you recovered?
Can you bring the microphone as far over as you can as well? Thank you.
I believe the jeans were underneath the jacket in this.
Okay. What about exhibit 64? Can you describe what's depicted in that photo?
The winter jacket.
Can you point to that? What else is, just in general, if you can recall, what else was in there? There are lots of things in that photo.
There's a shovel here that was in the trunk of the vehicle.
Okay. What about that item that I'm pointing to here? What does that appear to be?
A windshield wiper.
Actually, what about this item here?
Oh, that is a bed sheet.
And did you recover that?
I did.
How about exhibit 65?
I believe this is a photo behind the front driver's seat, and the purse was in the lower area here.
Showing you exhibit 66. What is that?
It's a black and brown purse that was located behind the front driver's seat on the floor.
Were there items that were contained in that purse that you were able to recover?
Yes.
Such as?
There was a laptop, an iPad, and some miscellaneous items. I believe there's another photo.
Showing you exhibit number 67.
Yeah, those were some of the contents from inside of the bag.
Exhibit 68.
Additional items from inside of the bag.
Do you know what these items are?
I believe there's going to be another photo. This is paperwork with Sade Robinson's name on it.
Showing you exhibit 69. Is that the paperwork?
It's a closer view, yes.
Exhibit number 70.
This was an apron that was located inside of the trunk with Sade's name tag on it from the Wisconsin Club.
It looks like there's some cash, like loose bills of US currency,
Yes.
but Exhibit 71.
These were all of the items from that purse, all laid out.
Okay, can you describe some of the other items there?
Let's see. So there's 2 notebooks, a comb, there's 2 photos, Polaroid photos, miscellaneous paperwork, a planner over here, and a phone charging block.
Looks like some pencils and markers too.
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked Exhibit number 72. What is that?
That is an overall of the front driver's seat.
Exhibit 73.
This is a measurement that we took from the gas pedal of the vehicle to the front seat of the driver's seat.
Okay, and why did you do that?
To show the distance, because it seemed awfully far for an individual of her stature.
Okay, so at this point you were familiar with who Sade Robinson was, correct?
Yes.
Including some of her demographic information, such as height. Were you familiar with what she looked like?
Not before the search, no.
Okay. Showing you Exhibit number 74. What is that?
These are clothing items that were recovered from the trunk of the vehicle.
Okay, describe what we're looking at here.
There's a black, that outer winter puffy style jacket, light ripped jeans, tan underwear, and 2 pair of white tennis shoes.
The one tennis shoe is burned.
Yes.
The jeans and underwear, were they like that when you recovered them?
Yes.
So you did not place them like that?
No.
Is there anything upon looking at that that strikes you as unusual?
I think looking at how these were recovered, it could be consistent with somebody assisting in the removal.
How about Exhibit number 75?
Those are a close-up of the white tennis shoes that were recovered from the trunk.
Exhibit 76?
A closer image of the light wash jeans and the underwear.
77?
A closer image of the black winter style jacket.
What is 78?
This is an overall of the interior components that were removed from the car.
From what part of the car?
All of the interior of the car.
So not the trunk, the passenger compartment?
Yes.
And was one of those items depicted in Exhibit 79?
Yes, this was recovered in melted debris that we had to pry out of.
Okay, and what is that?
We believe that is the rear part of a phone where your camera is. It's the 3 camera spots on iPhones.
And you're
Consistent with an iPhone
Okay.
15.
And you're familiar with that?
Yes.
But Exhibit number 80?
That is an overall of the front passenger compartment.
And I should ask, that's the only part of a phone that you recovered in the car that was identifiable as something on a phone?
Correct.
Exhibit number 81?
So this is an item that is a stuffed animal of some sort that had an odor of gasoline on it. That was on the floorboard on the passenger side of the vehicle.
And you recovered that item?
Yes,
Why?
because it had an odor of gasoline.
Exhibit number 82?
That is an overall of the front damage on the Honda Civic.
And that doesn't appear to be fire damage, does it?
No.
Exhibit number 83?
Another overall of the damage on the front passenger quarter panel of the vehicle.
Exhibit 84?
That's a close-up of the driver's side quarter panel showing the damage on the Honda Civic.
Exhibit number 85?
That is passenger side damage to the mirror, a close-up.
Exhibit number 86.
This is another image of the measurement that we took.
So driver's side again.
Driver's side seat, yep.
Are you aware of whether or not other measurements were also taken
I
at a
believe-
later time?
Yes, there were, not by me, but there were.
Exhibit number 87.
Close-up of the measurement.
And what was the measurement, if you know?
I do not recall off the top of my head.
Exhibit 88.
And this was the measurement from the brake pedal to the front driver's seat.
And are you able to say what that was? Are you able to see?
I don't know if that's 19 inches, but
And exhibit number 89.
okay, it shows 1 feet, 20 inches for the measurement.
You can have a seat. At some point during your investigation, your portion of this investigation, the car search, were you made aware of what Sade Robinson was last seen wearing?
Yes, once I recovered the clothing, I had reached out to see what she was last seen wearing.
And what did you receive in response?
I received a still image of Sade. She was walking on a boardwalk by herself, and she was wearing light wash, ripped jeans, white tennis shoes, and a black jacket, from what I could see.
I'm showing you what's been marked exhibit 240. You can identify what that is.
This is the image that I was sent.
I'd ask that 240 be received and published.
Any objection?
No.
240s received, go ahead.
Do the jeans that Sade is wearing in that photograph appear to be the jeans that you recovered?
They do.
And what about the coat?
Also appears to be the same.
And what about her shoes?
They appear to be the same.
And what about the bag?
From what you can see in the photo, it resembles a dark style bag, but yes.
Did you recover any white tops, shirts or sweaters?
No.
The DNA, the crime lab individuals who were taking DNA swabs, did you see them taking swabs of areas like the door handles?
Yes, they did.
Okay. All right, the items that you described that we've seen photos of, those were placed on inventory, correct?
They were.
And inventory is what? Just
Property with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office.
okay. Showing you what's been showing you what's been marked exhibit number 52. Can you identify what this is?
This is the stuffed animal that had the odor of the accelerant from the front passenger floorboard of the Honda Civic.
So that's what's contained in that bag, correct?
Yes,
Is it contained in something?
a paint can.
Okay. What condition is that in?
It had been to the crime lab already.
Okay. I'm asking that exhibit 52 be received.
Any objection?
No.
It's received.
Showing you what's been marked exhibit number 57. What is that?
This is the brown and black purse, partially burned from the rear driver's side floorboard.
And that's already been opened, correct?
It has.
You opened that earlier today.
I did.
Can you pull out what's in that?
This is the purse that was recovered.
I'd ask that exhibit 57 be received.
Any objection?
No.
57's received.
Showing you exhibit number 54. What is that?
These are the light wash ripped jeans with the tan underwear that were recovered from the trunk.
I'd ask that exhibit 54 be received.
Any objection?
No.
It's received.
And I'd ask you to just take out the jeans. Thank you. Showing you what's been marked exhibit number 53. What is that?
This is the black puffy jacket from the trunk of the Honda Civic.
And could you open that up and show us what it contains? Thank you. Showing you exhibit 55. What is that?
These are the white Bob's sneakers with burn damage recovered from the trunk.
Could you open that and take the shoes out for us?
Do you want scissors?
Probably.
Thanks.
Did I move in exhibit number 55?
No.
Okay,
No.
move in exhibit 55.
Any objection?
No.
It's received 53 too.
I'd move in exhibit 53.
I don't object to that either.
You're not objecting?
No.
It's received as well.
Showing you what's been marked exhibit 56. What is that?
This is the white-ish yellow bed sheet, partially burned, that was recovered from the trunk.
I'd ask for exhibit 56 to be received.
I don't object.
It's received.
And could you open that, please?
All the way open.
No, that's okay. That was found in the trunk. You showed us where it was, right?
It was.
Okay, thank you. You testified that you didn't find any sort of top, a shirt or a sweater Did you find a bra?
No,
Are you aware of whether or not the DNA swabs that you testified the crime lab was taking, that those were ultimately taken to the crime lab?
they were, but not by me.
I don't have anything further.
Cross?
So you were involved in other things in this case, but primarily a search of the car, right?
Correct.
And and this looks like a pretty thorough search, you were going through the trunk and the main area of the vehicle, right?
Yes.
Were there any identifiers for Maxwell Anderson in that car?
No.
Any ID cards or anything like that?
No.
There was obviously some clothing in the trunk area that you've testified to that belonged to Miss Robinson, obviously, right?
Correct.
And some measurements were done, you were present for that?
Yes.
Now, did you go to the scene of, excuse me, were you present at the scene of the burning car or no?
No.
Your investigation was done once the car had been towed back to a lot, right?
Correct.
Or maybe a building that you use.
Yes.
And do you know whether the fire department, well, by the time you got the vehicle, the fire department had already been in the car and hosed it down and opened the doors and things like that, right?
I can't speak to what they've done, but there was clear water inside the vehicle.
I mean, clearly they had put out the fire and cut open the hood and things like
Yes.
that, right? And in terms of the seat distance from how far forward or how far back it is, do you know whether the fire department moved it forward or backward as they're putting out the fire?
No, I'm not sure.
All you know is those measurements are what they are for when you have the vehicle at the lot, right?
Yes.
DNA swabs were done really throughout the vehicle, isn't that fair to say?
I
On
believe
various-
it was just the exterior.
The exterior driver's front door handle, right?
Yes.
So meaning that door handle that a driver would use to get in or out of the car was swabbed extensively.
Yes.
And exterior driver rear door handle, that was also swabbed.
Yes.
Trunk latch.
Yes.
What's a trunk latch?
How you open up the trunk of a vehicle.
Okay, so for this particular vehicle, is there a button in the back of the trunk that you would have pushed and it would have opened?
I don't recall.
Okay, it's something that a person would have to touch to open up the trunk though,
Yes.
and that was swabbed.
Yes.
And exterior passenger rear door handle,
That was done.
exterior passenger front door handle.
Yes.
So all of those things are swabbed for DNA correct?
Yes.
And I think you just said you didn't send any of it to the lab for testing. That was somebody else's responsibility.
Correct.
You said the stuffed animal that we've talked about had an odor of gasoline on it.
Yes.
Are you a bomb technician?
I am.
Okay. What's a bomb technician?
I respond to calls of suspicious items. I respond if there's a potential for a device, anything having to do with military ordnance.
Got it. And so when you say gasoline, you're using that phrase, are you using that in just the ordinary smell of gasoline is what you mean, right? Like anybody would smell at a gas station is what you were smelling, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
State, were things still wet inside the car?
Yes, things had to be taken out of their original packaging and hung up to dry.
Nothing further.
Defense?
No.
Thank you. Anybody need a break at this time? No? Okay. Next witness, State.
Special Agent Ricky Hankins.
solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If you could please be seated, state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Ricky Hankins, Hankins.
How are you employed, sir?
I am a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, also known as ATF.
How long have you worked in law enforcement?
I have worked for ATF since April 2001.
And what is your, are you a certified fire investigator?
I am.
What is that?
A certified fire investigator means that I have received specialized training in order to investigate fire origin and cause.
Can you just summarize what that is, the training?
The training for ATF was a 2-year immersion program where I had to take graduate courses from the University of Maryland. I had to investigate a minimum of 100 fire scenes under the mentorship of more senior ATF CFIs. I had to do a research project. I had to do reading reports. At the end of it, I had to take written tests. And I'm also an International Association of Arson Investigators, CFI, through their process as well.
How long have you been a CFI?
I have been an ATF CFI since 2009.
Back on or about April 5th, 2024, were you asked to assist in the search and processing of a 2020 Honda Civic?
Correct.
Where did that occur?
That occurred at 3811 West Lincoln, the secure impound lot for the Milwaukee Police Department.
Among the people present for that was yourself as well as Detective Alexis Krusik, who just left this room, correct?
That is right.
And then there were additional personnel present from the Milwaukee Police Department as well as the Wisconsin State Crime Lab. Is that correct?
That is correct.
After doing that search, were you tasked with conducting an origin and cause determination?
I was.
What is the purpose of an origin and cause determination?
An origin and cause investigation starts with determining where a fire starts. The purpose of an origin and cause investigation is to determine where a fire starts and how it started, to determine if it's an accident, if possible, or an intentional act. Sometimes we can't tell the difference and we have to leave a fire undetermined.
In this case, after you conducted that search with those other people, were you able to come to a conclusion as to origin and cause of this fire?
Yes.
Can you tell us basically the process? Take us through it.
In order to get to the final conclusion, the first thing we look at is origin. And to put it simply, when you're looking for the origin of the fire, we're looking at materials or locations that do not look like their immediate surroundings. So mass loss is different, so things are just burned away, and there's not as much left of an area as its immediate surroundings. So there's mass loss, there's discoloration, all right? There's deposit, there's deformation, melting, warping. When we see areas like that, we explore those areas as potential areas of origin, keeping in mind that the greatest area of fire damage or greatest area of mass loss doesn't always mean origin. Sometimes that mass loss is caused by ventilation. So if ventilation comes in an area, that can cause more mass loss. So we explore first origin. Once we're comfortable with where a fire starts, then we look for what are the first fuels, what's capable of burning in that area, and what are our heat sources. Are there any accidental potential heat sources that could have come in contact with our fuel load? Are they capable of igniting what's in that area? Once we explore that and we test that with prior knowledge, sometimes we have to do fire research testing at our lab out in Maryland. We have a large warehouse that sometimes we have to rebuild complete structures and test fire to see which of our hypothesis might be correct. If we are able to come to a hypothesis that withstands all scrutiny and only one hypothesis remains, then we draw a conclusion.
Does this involve an assessment of the exterior damage as well as to the interior damage of the vehicle?
That's correct.
Can you tell us what you noticed when you did an exterior assessment?
Of the 2020 Honda Civic, there was oxidation to the sunroof area, and there was also oxidation to the exterior passenger side doors.
What is that?
Oxidation is discoloration. So one of those things I was telling you that we're looking for is the discoloration. So there's a whitening or a peeling of the exterior paint from those doors.
I'm going to put on the screen here for you Exhibit 60. Doesn't matter what the speed is. You're talking about this discoloration right around here?
That is correct.
Let's talk about the interior damage assessment. What did you observe?
When we were looking at the interior of the Honda Civic, we looked first at the engine compartment, and then we looked at the trunk. The interior of those compartments, the engine compartment, there was no indication of direct flame damage. There was no fire damage indicating that the fire started in the engine compartment. Same with the trunk. There was a little bit of mass loss or flame damage to contents of the trunk that were immediately adjacent to the back seat. Well, that's because the back seat had burned away from a fire from the passenger compartment and had extended a limited extension into the trunk.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Looking at the passenger compartment, so the front seats, the back seats, we had heavy mass loss to contents as well as the seating, both the backrests, and there's more survivability to the seat cushion, but the backrests for the two front bucket seats and the backrests for the rear seat were uniformly consumed. And so it was very clear that the fire had originated inside the passenger compartment.
All right, and for the record, while you were talking, I put up Exhibit 62, which has already been admitted. That would be an image of the interior compartment, correct?
Correct.
What can you tell us about the windows?
When I examined the windows, I had a lot of window remnants deep inside the window wells, indicative of the windows being at least partially open during the fire event.
Let's talk about excavation. What happened? What did you notice through that?
So like I said before, when we determined origin, and that being the passenger compartment, we started excavating, looking for what are our fuel loads. The back seat, I remember seeing a fleece blanket, which I believe we see here in this photograph. There were remnants of cardboard, remnants of paper material. I do recall, I believe, a person back seat. There was also remnants of a Bic lighter, I recall seeing in the back seat. And as we excavated further now into the front of the passenger compartment, I reached the area of the floorboard on the front passenger side. So front passenger bucket seat, right at foot level. During excavation, I located what appeared to be remnants of a stuffed animal, green in color, at least majority of it green that had survived. And as soon as I turned it over, I was overwhelmed by an odor consistent with the possible presence of a petroleum distillate. It smelled like, sometimes we can't tell what it is, but it could be gasoline, it could be lighter fluid, it could be any kind of petroleum distillate. But whatever this stuffed animal was appeared to have been saturated with it because it had weight to it. And it was an overwhelming odor that I experienced.
Are you able to say, when you were in that front passenger compartment, whether or not the seats would have been able to be moved after the fire was extinguished?
No, they were not.
How could you tell?
When fire occurs and is extinguished, it creates what's called protective patterns. So pretend that there's a fire up here at the desk that I'm sitting at, and this is more of a solid, not a light combustible. If this is in place at the time of the fire, and the fire department puts out the fire, and we move this after the fact, this is called a protected area underneath this item, right? So just like that example, if something is moved, a seat, for example, after the fight, or after the fire, after the extinguishment, you would see a protected area or a disjarment or unalignment of the fire debris.
Going back to that odor of petroleum distillate, are you able to tell us what some examples of petroleum distillates are?
Oh, gasoline, diesel, lighter fluid, solvents, paint thinners.
Thank you. You participated in the, actually, before I go there, that item that you sensed that odor from was collected by the sheriff's office?
That's right.
You participated as well in the x-ray of the vehicle?
I did.
Did you observe any remnants of weapons or keys?
We did not.
What was the weather like on the day of the fire?
I believe it was light rain.
And is that something you would take into account during your analysis?
The weather in general, yes.
Okay. So to recap, go from front to back. The engine compartment of the trunk was not fire damaged.
Correct.
You could rule that out as the origin location.
That's accurate.
The trunk you also ruled out. How so?
Looking at the trunk, there was survivability, no direct flame damage to the majority of the trunk. We located remnants, if I recall correctly, bed sheet, female clothing in the back or in the trunk. No flame damage to those contents. If a fire originates in the trunk, there's going to be flame damage.
If the trunk is closed at the time of the fire, that would be an impediment because of lack of oxygen, correct?
Objection leading.
Why would the trunk being opened or closed matter about the fire's ability to spread in the trunk?
In order to have combustion, in order to have fire, you need three things: oxygen, fuel, fuel, and a heat source. All right. So if you take away oxygen, there won't be fire. There won't be combustion.
Within the passenger compartment of the vehicle, while the window's down, there clearly would have been oxygen then, right?
That's correct.
Are you aware of, actually to finish up where I was going then, so that leaves us with the passenger compartment. Were you able to conclude that's where the fire started?
Yes.
All right, and just summarize how.
Based on the direct flame damage, the mass loss to the contents, as well as the seat cushions, was indicative of a fire coming from that area, originating in that area.
And are you able to come to a conclusion based on your examination, training, and experience as to how the fire started?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what your conclusion is and how you come to that conclusion?
Based on three main bullet points or data points, one being the presence of ignitable liquid, because at the time of my rendering of my report, I received a lab report from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab indicating a medium petroleum distillate was found in the stuffed animal debris. Witness statements is also something we take into consideration when we're determining origin and cause, and a witness statement was reported that they had seen an individual walking away from the 2020 Honda Civic after throwing what the witness claimed appeared to be a lit lighter into the driver window. And then the third final bullet point that was important for consideration was the registered owner had been determined to be deceased and not the driver of the vehicle at the time of the fire.
Are you able to give us any information as to how fast a fire started in that manner could spread in a car like that?
Quickly, ignitable liquid accelerates fires.
I have no other questions.
Cross.
Okay, so to back up a little bit. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just to back up a little bit, I think what you were saying towards the end is that before you even begin your examination of the vehicle, you read witness statements and do a try to learn a little bit about the circumstances. Would that be fair to say? Not
always before we do an examination of the vehicle. I believe I learned, I'm not sure when I learned of that witness statement, that would have been after the scene exam.
Okay, you prepared an opinion and cause report though, right?
Origin and cause, correct.
Origin and cause report, right?
Correct.
And you drafted that report and it has sections such as synopsis, narrative, and participants, right?
Correct.
And there's a section in there specifically entitled witness statements, right?
That's correct.
And that's because of what people say is important to know,
Correct.
as well as doing your own independent examination, because sometimes what people say is different than what actually happened.
Sometimes.
It's part of the reason why you go in and do an examination is to try to see if that version makes sense, for example, right?
We compare witness statements to physical evidence all the time.
And that's what you did here, right?
Yes.
Now, the bottom line, I guess the bottom line conclusion, if you will, is that the Honda Civic was lit on fire.
It was an intentionally set fire.
Not something that happens from the engine, right?
Correct.
And it's your conclusion that the intentionally set fire was a stuffed animal lit on fire and placed on the passenger side of the car. Do I have that right?
You do not have that right.
Okay, can you explain your conclusion?
So as I stated in my conclusion, it was the application of a open flame to ignitable liquid inside the passenger compartment. When ignitable liquid is used to start a fire or accelerate a fire, it's not pertinent for us to pinpoint exactly where that fire starts because, for example, if I poured gasoline throughout this room and lit it on fire, after the fact, we wouldn't be able to distinguish where I actually put the open flame to the gasoline. Was it in the back corner or in the front corner? Because the damage is going to spread so quickly that the mass loss, the fire damage, isn't going to tell us where that poured gasoline, that poured ignitable liquid was first ignited. So my conclusion, if I believe my report is in front of you, is that it was an open flame ignition of a liquid medium petroleum distillate inside the passenger compartment.
Something like gasoline.
Medium petroleum distillate was the lab report.
Right, and you said before on direct that could be gasoline. Use that as an example.
A petroleum distillate is not a medium, gasoline is not a medium petroleum distillate.
Lighter fluid would be a medium.
Correct.
What we use to light a grill, right?
That is accurate.
Okay, so your conclusion is that something like that was used, right?
Correct.
On a stuffed animal.
That included a stuffed animal.
Well, there was you made particular note of the stuffed animal, didn't you? That this stuffed animal had an overwhelming odor of the medium petroleum distillate, right?
That's correct.
Which tells you, based on your experience, that stuffed animal, you believe, was sprayed or doused with that liquid, right?
Right. I think where we're missing each other is I did not say, nor would I say, that is the only location in the vehicle that had ignitable liquid doused or applied.
Right. The liquid could have been sprayed all over, as far as you know.
Correct.
Okay. Do you aware of any witnesses who saw someone spraying lighter fluid all over a vehicle?
No.
The only witness statement you're aware of is from a person who claims that a lit lighter was thrown into a driver's window from outside of a vehicle.
Correct.
And in fact, you found part of a Bic lighter on the back of the vehicle, right?
That's correct.
When you say Bic lighter, are you referring to the standard thing you would buy at a gas station? Is that what it looked like?
Correct.
The kind where a person would use to light a cigarette, right?
True.
You're, as an arson investigator or ATF employee, certainly you know that a Bic lighter, if a person lights it, the moment they let go of where their thumb would go, the moment they let go, the flame goes out, right?
Some lighters have a locking mechanism where you can lock the flame down.
Did this one have that?
I did not recover it, so I did not examine that.
So you don't know?
I don't.
And but you do know that the four windows were all likely open at least partially, right? At least partially open at the time of the fire, right?
Correct.
And that's based on the uniform fire mass loss, right? Or no, I'm sorry, that's based on the debris that you noticed in the windowsills, right?
Right, the window channel had significant glass still in it.
How far down were the windows at the time?
We weren't able to tell that. That's why I said at least partially down.
So it could be anywhere from just a tiniest little fraction down to fully?
No, we had more glass in the window channels than just a tiny bit.
Okay, so you're
I
looking.
can't quantify it for you.
Well, in the pictures we saw,
Mostly up there, there are two right here.
well, if we take picture 61, for example, exhibit 61, for example. Oh, thank you. If we take exhibit 61, for example, what does that show? Well, how do the windows look there?
The
windows
windows
are-
are gone.
What?
The windows are not evident in that picture.
They're gone, right?
Correct.
And so when you examined the vehicle, the windows themselves were already gone, right?
Like I said, I was able to see down into the window channels inside the door.
And why would windows be gone? Is that because the fire department personnel would knock them out?
Or the fire could have compromised them and they failed due to heat.
In other words, the fire could have cracked them.
But they were also down.
Now, the seat, in terms of the seat distance being back, before you were holding up a Kleenex box and moving it around in front of you, weren't you?
Correct.
As a demonstrative?
Correct.
Okay, so I want to understand the seat location in the vehicle. Is that something that you examined?
I did.
You look at how far back the seat is on the metal tracks, right?
We did in this case.
Okay, and in terms of was the driver's seat all the way back, as far as it can go?
We did not manipulate it to see if it was all the way back as far as it would go. We just made note of where it was at that time,
Okay,
at the time of the fire.
Okay, so you didn't note how far back on the tracks it was itself?
No.
But it's your opinion that it wasn't moved by fire department personnel, because why?
Again, if it had been moved, we would have had clean parts of the track. So if the seat is on a track,
Right.
everyone knows that. So if you move it after soot deposits, after a flame impinges upon it, it's going to then expose a clean part of the track. We didn't have that.
Well, did you have clean part? Right. Were there parts of the track that were clean and parts of it that had soot on it, or no?
There was I don't recall the exact visual of the tracks. We could tell that they had not moved, the seat had not moved from the time of the fire.
That's fine. Thank you, that's all.
If you had not had the witness statements, would your opinion about where the fire originated have changed?
No.
If you had not had witness statements, would your opinion about it being a result of an ignition of an ignitable liquid changed?
No.
Was the fire incendiary?
It was.
Meaning what?
It was an intentional act.
Nothing else.
No.
Thank you. Anybody need a break now? Oh, I see some hands. Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute afternoon break, and then we'll be back with you. So just leave your notebooks on your chairs, please.